Hello.
Welcome to the Leaders in Housing Counseling call for October 5th. Glad that everybody's joined us. Looks like we have a good turnout today. We have a crowded call. We are going to skip the usual updates and dive right into the agenda. First half will be about hurricane disaster recovery, and we're going to hit some high points. I'm sure at later calls we'll be able to go into more detail, but I think we're learning that this is impact a major part of the United States, but also has the ripple effects of people being displaced and being and coming into programs much further away than the states that were impacted by the hurricane. So we're going to try to touch on that, as well as some of the policy issues that are about how to rebuild and resilience, and also training opportunities that I believe will be available to everybody, so that you'll have an opportunity to provide services to people no matter where you're located. And then the second half of the call will be part of our Innovations in Housing Counseling series on looking for new lines of business and programs that are inside the mission of counseling agencies, but have the ability to meet people's needs and generate new incomes. And we have our friends at ESOP who actually initiated this series a couple of years ago with their director, and we'll have Sonia Edwards talking about financial capability and the elderly, and a program they've been doing with a great deal of success. So, and then we'll do a quick plug on joining NHRC, which we've been doing quite well this year, so thank you, everybody. So let's dive right in. We're going to start with Carmen Cosme at the Career One Stop in Puerto Rico. She is calling in from Puerto Rico, but we thought it'd be important to get somebody from the field who's directly involved. Carmen, are you there?
Yes, we are.
We are. I'm here.
Okay, good. Sounds like more than one voice. So tell us what we should know about what Puerto Rico is like right now, and what the role of counseling can be.
Okay. The people is answers to the people the second day for the hurricane. And today and the other day, the Friday, the people is come to the office, and 10 or 11 or 15 counseling in this building. The people for the building from donde estamos.
Where we are located.
We are located.
Oh, good. So is your office up and running? Do you have electricity? And what about the rest of the island?
¿Cómo está el resto de la isla?
En el área de consejería.
No, de los efectos del huracán.
Okay, the effect of the hurricane is devastated, and the people need served, but not fluent. They don't have the services for the people, because I don't know the problem with the government or the FEMA. It's not showing up. I'm responding to the disaster.
So you haven't seen anything or very much of FEMA at all?
I talk to Spanish, and the people with the office, Cesar or translate, okay? No problem.
No problem.
Go ahead.
Okay. La situación en la isla es la siguiente. Hay muchos vagones, mucha gente enviando cosas, pero realmente no se está distribuyendo los vagones porque el gobierno lo tiene todo controlado.
Right, Ms. Carmen said that right now we are receiving supply from the United States. No, other organizations are getting supplies, but they cannot pick it up at the port, because the government is controlling everything over here. the
Go ahead.
distribution system for the goods, it's broken. It's not working at all.
Pero hemos estado visitando diferentes pueblos donde nosotros damos servicio, como en el área sur central, oeste, y pues está ¿verdad? Sus alcaldes y su gente están ahí esperando, trabajando mucho, pero con gran necesidad. Hay necesidad ayer de hecho se enviaron 2 empleados de la organización a hacer trabajo voluntario, y ese trabajo pues ellos trajeron un insumo, fotos de las situaciones, se dieron 3 consejerías allí.
So far we have been visiting the area where we provide services. We have noticed that people is in need of a lot of stuff, especially the essential needs. Yesterday, the office sent 2 employees to some of the rural areas where we provide services. Some of the needs that we get over there were water, oxygen, medical supplies. Over there, some co-workers provide counseling in several areas, including housing, how to fill the FEMA assistance application, and and spiritual counseling too, because those people that are serving the need also lost their belongings during the hurricane.
Entonces, la oficina ha estado también ofreciendo servicios en diversas áreas para personas con la monitoría, con la estructura financiera después del huracán, y de paso le estamos trabajando, apoyándolos en el área de entrar a FEMA para que terminen su solicitud y que el gobierno pueda, ¿verdad?, aportar la cantidad de dinero que les va a dar. Ha venido bastante gente, no nos hemos promocionado, pero sí estamos proveyendo el servicio para la familia. Exacto. Y estamos llamando gente de nuestros clientes para saber cómo están, qué ha pasado con ellos, qué necesidades tienen, para ver de qué forma los podemos apoyar.
As a housing counseling agency, once they have been providing assistance to the people that have been coming to the office, preparing their budget and helping them complete the FEMA application, FEMA disaster application. We have been calling some of our participants to ask them if they need any help. Also, we are on the first floor in a residential building. People from this building have been coming down to receive assistance too.
De hecho, ayer estuve con comunicación con el municipio de Caguas. Ellos me van a hacer llegar cuáles son las personas con las necesidades de vivienda para ver de qué forma podemos contactar y irlas reubicando. E inclusive pedí un listado de casas para alquiler a la Asociación de Arrendadores para ver de qué forma podíamos ubicar la gente en esas casas que están pendientes de alquilar.
Ms. Carmen asked for 2 municipalities to provide the census on housing needs that those municipalities has. She has in contact with an association of renters, so they can provide a list of the properties that are available to get filled. So she's going to put in contact the person that don't have housing at the moment with those units that are available to get occupied.
So it's good to know there are some available units. And actually, we already have a question in the queue. Matthew?
Yeah, and a few more just started rolling in. But the first was whether donations that are coming from the mainland are being received by the folks on the ground there in Puerto Rico.
Las donaciones que se están recibiendo de Estados Unidos, ¿cómo se están trabajando y la gente la está recibiendo?
No.
At the moment, we are still coordinating help from the mainland. We can speak for other organizations.
El gobierno es quien controla todo.
Government is controlling everything. there's a lot of people here that are taking matters into their own hands, and whoever has supplies, they're giving it to the people. So it's private organizations. And it's very slow because the problem is the Puerto Rican terrain. There's people in the mountains that need help, and it's really hard to get to them. And the concentration of the things that are coming in, they come to the metropolitan area. So by the time they get over there, they are coming with problems of getting to the area. It's a lot of poor people in Puerto Rico. It's a lot of old senior citizens that need help.
La zona que estamos tratando de impactar nosotros, en adición a la que estamos, ¿verdad?, que es Arecibo y San Juan, es la zona desde Ponce hasta Humacao, llamada la zona del hambre.
There's a side here which is the southeast, which is where the eye of the hurricane came in. They're calling it the zone of the hunger zone, because there's a lot of people that need help, and we are concentrating in that part of the country to help people. And we also help in Caguas and of course Arecibo.
Thank you. Someone else asked whether are banks still requiring people who are impacted to make mortgage payments, or are they offering forbearance, or how are things working?
They're giving out forbearance till December 31st. All of the banks. Nobody, but people are confused. I as a counselor, I've been counseling about it because it all depends who the investor is. I know there's banks that are talking to private investors to see how they are going to handle the situation. People are confused. Some of them, they want to take the forbearance because there's uncertainty. We still don't have electricity. There's only 10% of Puerto Rico who has electricity. So the majority of people don't have power, and we don't know when we're going to get it. So there's a lot of uncertainty, and people need cash. That's the main reason, because nobody's power. People, there's no power. And communication are working. Not all of them. Sometimes you speak to people and it gets cut. You're having a fine conversation and it gets cut. So I know they're doing the best they can, but that's our situation right now. Me particularly, on a personal level, I could tell you that it's quite. Let me look for the word because I don't want to use the word depressed. But you go to markets and there's no food, So that's a concern. That because there's no power, you don't have refrigeration, the food that is refrigerated. But then you don't see a lot of cans. There's not much option. And we are in this room. We're young, but all people, it's a concern. I keep repeating.
Absolutely, no. It's very.
You don't see food.
En Villalba necesitan, en el pueblo de Villalba ha muerto gente por falta de oxígeno.
There's people that need medical supplies, and there's people that are dying because of medical supplies.
La diálisis nos están ofreciendo.
So there's just one more question, and I'm sorry. Go ahead.
We're saying that medical needs, people are dying because they are not receiving dialysis. Most of the deaths after the hurricane are those that have been able to access dialysis offices.
And so a few people have asked, you know, are there things that folks on the mainland can do? People have said that have been putting together packages, of needed items, but it seems like they're not getting there. Is there anything that folks on the call can do that?
Well, you know, I mean, we've been discussing here, and I just discussed it a little while ago. I mean, we are an organization that we work for the community, and if we get supplies here or some way, we'll go out on the streets and give them away, identify. You know, we work with communities that are low income, so we can just go directly. We don't need no government. We don't need anything. We already have our contacts. We just go, you know, and that's what we need. If we get supplies, we'll go out, and we have the communities identified already.
That's right. Well, we should think about if there are ways that we can help facilitate some more collective opportunities. I know that there are people in Philadelphia that have deep roots in Puerto Rico and going down and bringing things with them when they go. And I guess airports must be working. You know, we're all thinking about you. We're all deeply concerned, and we'll want to stay in touch with us as this proceeds, and want to be as helpful as we can. We really appreciate all you're doing there, and realize you're in a very, very difficult situation. The part of the other thing we wanted to touch on was that many people have left Puerto Rico, and also Florida and Texas hurricane-impacted areas. And we have Daniel Ruggiero on the line from Columbus, Ohio, from Homes on the Hill. And even though he's in Columbus, he's actually counseling people who have had who have been displaced by the hurricane. Dan, you want to give us a really fast report here?
Sure. Thanks, Bruce. Yes, we saw our first family displaced by a hurricane as early as September 21st, so pretty soon after the actual event, which surprised us. And this particular family actually drove through Georgia and Tennessee from Florida and kept stopping at Red Cross shelters and finding them all full of other Floridians. So they ended up at the Red Cross shelter here in Columbus, Ohio. And luckily, the Red Cross worker there had the foresight to connect them with us for our rental counseling program. And so we were able to help them secure rental housing here in Columbus. So that really shows the far-reaching impact. And I would imagine we're expecting to see Puerto Ricans as well, as we do have a pretty large community here in Ohio, as I'm sure other people do around the country. So I guess my word to the housing counseling agencies is that you may not be in Florida or Texas, but it's pretty far-reaching, and you can expect to see some people. You might want to reach out to your Red Cross shelter in your community just to let them know if you have services that can be available.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
Thank you for that. And Sarah, we have Sarah Edelman from Center for American Progress, and she is co-author of a paper that was just released on really how to rebuild and think about rebuilding and dealing with not just rebuilding, but rebuilding in a way that's more resilient and respecting the communities that existed and also the issues of justice and the fact that often people of color and lower income people ended up in lower lying areas or areas that are close to toxic waste. So quite a valuable overview on the issues. We've sent out a link to the paper, but Sarah, I'm glad you joined us. Can you give us some highlights here?
Sure. Thanks so much for having me. So yeah, we put out this report yesterday, you know, and the report is not about, where we are right now, for instance, in Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands are still very much in humanitarian assistance mode, and it seems even a little bit odd to be thinking about a year down the line. But Congress is going to hopefully continue appropriating funds to help with rebuilding, and so we want to get this information out there about how to rebuild in a resilient way, in a way that's equitable now, so that as Congress is putting together future packages, we can try and do this better than we've done after previous storms. So I'll just touch on two pieces of the report that I think might be of most interest to people on this call, and then you can take a look at it. We have one section around helping homeowners, and that's around making sure that we have fair forbearance terms, and glad to hear that banks across the board are giving folks at least till December 31st. But we know in many cases they're going to need more than that. So we think that certainly FHFA, the GSEs, FHA, VA, USDA should make sure that folks have at least a year to have their mortgage payments suspended, and that while they're figuring out next steps and beginning to rebuild, and that when the suspension is over, that they have a fair repayment plan, that they're not just asked to pay everything in a balloon or over a 6-month period, but ideally during that suspension period there's no late fees, there's no interest charges, and that if you miss 3 mortgage payments, you just at the end of your mortgage you'll pay 3 more mortgage payments. So we're really pushing for ways to try and make that forbearance process better. Also trying to get the investors to get the servicers to do a better job of releasing insurance funds more quickly. In previous storms, what's happened is, for folks who have flood insurance and they go to cash in on their policy, they can't get the funds until they are actually rebuilding. But everyone on this call knows it can take quite some time to actually get a contractor and get the funds to rebuild. But sometimes in the nearer term, you need funds to strip out moldy drywall or to board up the property to prevent further damage. So we're also recommending that the various agencies make it easier for homeowners to get money up front. And when it's time to allocating CDBG DR funds, which is sort of the biggest bulk of housing money that comes in these relief packages, making sure that they are distributed in an equitable way. Many of you know during Hurricane Katrina, oftentimes the amount of aid that was given out was based on the value of your home instead of the amount of repairs that you need to make. And that obviously the benefits skewed toward wealthier families, and lower income families who needed more help to begin with got less. So we want to make sure that that's the kind of thing that doesn't repeat itself. And then Bruce brought up this point of, making sure that we are not dealing another blow to communities that have already been marginalized and are already sort of pushed to lower lying parts of our cities, and in parts of our cities that are closer to Superfund sites and environmental hazards. And so we've called on Congress to require state and local officials to have rebuilding plans that prioritize cleanups in areas that are, the 5-mile radius from these harmful polluting sources, because these are areas that really are going to need some help. And we also want the EPA to take enforcement action against the companies that have during these storms have unleashed pollutants. In Crosby, Texas, for instance, there was a chemical plant that had a little bit of a there were explosions that took place during and after Harvey. The first responders had a hard time keeping it under control and ended up needing to seek medical assistance. Who knows what the damage to the community is of unleashing some of the pollutants that were unleashed at that time. Applied Energy Systems in Puerto Rico, there was a 5-story mound of uncovered coal ash that was packed with heavy metals that also was dislodged. We need to make sure that to the extent that the surrounding communities that were affected, that companies are paying for that. So that's some of what we got to in our report, and thank you all for the work that you're doing on the front lines.
Excuse me.
Yes.
It's important in Villalba and Utuado and the rural center island is more community neighborhoods is disappeared at day.
The neighborhood disappeared?
Yes. Yes.
Completely white.
Complete. And
because of the bridges that were, or
Winds and flood. Completely wipe out some neighborhoods in the rural area.
Una 290,000.
The government estimate, the first estimate of the home damage is 290,000 units.
Units. And floods,
Some more.
pues son las que explotaron. Y... It's a big problem.
Whose estimates?
In Ponce, the 3,040 housing disappeared. In Villalba, 300 and
Really lost.
I sent to the photo for the visit yesterday to Villalba, and we collect some pictures we share for Mr. Lott, Mr. Kaplan, Lily, Sonia, all people, but that is the reality show from Puerto Rico. This is the reality. In the rural area, because
I did see the pictures.
Area is,
I did see the pictures, and there were houses without roofs. There were buildings completely down. There was a gas station that was clearly destroyed, and streets blocked with major trees across the way. It was quite dramatic.
Bruce, may I ask one question? This is Sarah.
Sure. Please.
Is FEMA, is the transitional shelter assistance and critical needs assistance available yet, to your knowledge?
very slow, very, very, very slow. Slow. No fluye.
No assistance at all. They just began
No
to
assistance at all.
position. Most of the people are sheltered on the government units, schools, coliseums. So the municipal government is the one most getting the direct services to the population.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's move on to Carl Wyndham, who's doing a training program for the Florida Housing Counselor Network, and and I think under Counselor's Corner is providing a training and around the kind of FEMA related issues, and also we should understand if this is available to all of us. Carl, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, good.
Hello.
So give us a picture of what the opportunity is.
I am
appreciate
the attitude from Unidos US, from ellos han estado todo el tiempo pendientes a Puerto Rico, a dar el servicio, son nuestros amigos y entiendo que se puede hacer mucho por la población. Nosotros estamos aquí, estamos trabajando de 8 a 4 todos los días, estamos visitando las comunidades y queremos hacer, no perder, queremos hacer por la gente que lo necesita. Y gracias a Unidos porque realmente no ha sido en vano el que nosotros nos hayamos afiliado a esta organización que está tan pendiente a las comunidades latinas.
Carmen said that she's thankful with Unidos US for the helpfulness, the interest, and the way that they want to help us in Puerto Rico. And we are so proud to be an affiliate because we know the importance that Unidos gives to Puerto Rico and our communities.
Great. And are they part of the relief effort? Is that someplace we should look? Unidos US, because the old National Council of La Raza, is that a place where people might be able to make contributions?
No.
Hello?
Yes. Well, so we'll explore that. We'll try to do that. I mean, certainly Unidos US is a powerful and valuable organization. Let's jump quickly to Carl and about what the training resources are that are available. Thank you, Carl.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. And my heart goes out to my brethren in Puerto Rico. But I think that one of the big issues overall in disaster relief is information and resources. Information, number one, that actually comes from authentic sources. And then secondly, resources. And from a resource perspective, different hurricanes have different impacts on communities across the country and across the globe as these events unfold. And what we see occurring and what I hear here is the fact that each and every disaster takes on its own personality, if you will. And so the response, the preparation and all the things that go into the processes sometimes don't match up. And so there's a lot of suffering, there's a lot of frustration, and clearly there's a lot of things that go wrong throughout these situations. These situations do happen more often than people think, and it does create a lot of challenges. So for one, like in Florida, for instance, if you look at the southern part of the state, they had flood damage and they had wind damage, but as you go further up in the state, you have more wind damage. And the difference in the situations here are that, like in Florida, it has sustained winds for like 36 hours at 185 miles an hour, which actually came to Puerto Rico almost in the same way, which was even independent of Maria. And so you have, what that creates is a different type of on the ground type of issues. And so in all disasters, the second thing is like resources. Where do we find the resources? Who do we really go to? When do they really kick in? And I can tell you all, ladies and gentlemen, that the FEMA process isn't the most friendliest process in the world. I actually had to go through it myself this year in a tornado. And I can tell you, they move very methodically, and they're governed by law, in a sense, in a lot of things that they do. So I would like for everybody, if you ever want to know where all these resources are located, if you go to disasterassistance.gov, because there's a lot of websites that give you a lot of information on assistance programs. But the disasterassistance.gov is a place where, if I'm a counselor, for instance, it's a quick library of where I need to go and instantaneously put my hand on federal, state, and local resources without having to navigate through a lot of websites. It has links to the Red Cross, United Way, and all the aid organizations. It has the links to all the federal and state government agencies that's relevant here. And so on the ground, as far as counseling is concerned in Florida, I think that all of us, we turn into kind of like grief counselors in a sense, where we're talking to people in a different way. And we have to understand their situation if we ourselves weren't affected. So in Florida, for instance, at the southern part of Florida, if you lived in the Keys or Miami area, you may have been displaced as an employee in a counseling agency, whereas if you were further north, you may have been part of a group that was servicing the community. And so I think it just becomes paramount that that the agencies themselves protect their employees and their properties and their businesses, and they know how to do that. And then secondly, the amount of work that comes into with people being angry and needing cash resources, like housing is always an issue, and food and water and mental health and unemployment insurance. So, for instance, the agricultural market in Florida, or the farms, a lot of those got destroyed. But I said all that just to say that you have to be patient. You have to have a little diligence, and I applaud the people that's doing the work on the ground, because one of the tenements of disaster relief, it all starts in the local community. So I heard my colleagues from Puerto Rico say, we don't need the government, we could go and do it ourselves. That's really the spirit that has to be, that we all have to have in this type of situation. I myself, I've worked in 5 disasters since 1994, and I've actually been in 3. And I can tell you, it's some of the most trying times in anyone's life. And I feel for people who have to go through the process. But at the same time, I'm honored to be a counselor and to be able to educate people on how to recover from this process.
So, Carl,
so
you're
we're
going to
have
do some. You're going to have a training, right? And is it available to everybody? Okay, so why don't you pitch that quickly, because I think it could be useful to people even outside of the hurricane zone.
Sure. At the counselorscorner.org, we're having a training explain all the different federal programs, all the state programs, and how disaster relief is really a model that everybody should learn from the government, from the community, and from a citizen standpoint. And that's going to occur on October the 26th at 2 p.m.
Great, and send us a link so we can promote that as well. Matthew, you've got a,
Yeah, I'm just gonna, thank everyone, and we've gone a little over, but really appreciate everyone's insights. Just very quickly, we have Virginia Holman on from the HUD Office of Housing Counseling, who just wanted to pass on a few things. They're doing outreach efforts to housing counseling agencies in the areas impacted by all of the hurricanes, and they're right now determining the operational and capacity status of all of those agencies. She said that agencies should reach out to their point of contact at the Office of Housing Counseling for help and guidance. And she also said that there's the Office of Housing Counseling page on HUD Exchange has separate page of hurricane information resources. And then I also just wanted to quickly mention that Andrea Sabillon from Unidos US is on. She gave me a link to a document they've put together on hurricane relief that I circulated to everyone in the chat box there, so you should have a working link to it. And they're also working on a list of their affiliates that are working in preparation of the of families relocating to the mainland. And I will pass on the Counselor's Corner link in just a moment. I just got that.
Oh, good. And the Center for New York City Neighborhoods has done some great work from Hurricane Sandy, and they've got some thoughtful pieces as well. We probably should circulate that as well. You know, I know we could spend a lot more time on this. I feel badly that we have such a crowded agenda, but thank everybody for their good work. We'll continue to reach out and appreciate what people are doing. We're going to go over on the call today and also do the still end up doing this innovations on housing counseling. So probably plan for going an extra 15 minutes today. But thanks everybody for your contribution so far, and we will absolutely stay in touch. So we have Sonia Edwards from ESOP from Ohio, and they have got a program which fits into what a lot of groups are doing currently around financial capability. They've developed a real specialty around elderly issues and have been able to make it into a financially self-sufficient program. So Sonia, are you with us here?
I am.
Great, thank you so much. Let's get started. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to try to, No problem. I'll try to make up some time for us. Try not to keep us over too much. So for those of you that don't know, ESOP stands for Empowering and Strengthening Ohio's People, and we did develop the Senior Financial Empowerment Initiative. It's been launched about 3 years, so I'm just going to give you a little bit of history. So Matthew, if you'll go to the next slide, I'll tell you a little bit about who we are. We are a HUD-approved housing and financial counseling agency. It is our mission to foster the economic empowerment of disenfranchised communities through outreach, education, and advocacy. But I think our vision really describes more of what we do. ESOP envisions a community in which everyone has economic opportunity and financial stability. And you can go to the next slide, Matthew. We were founded in 1993 as a community organizing agency on the east side of Cleveland. ESOP initially stood for East Side Organizing Project. We started out creating organized leadership around issues that impacted neighborhoods, mostly on the east side of Cleveland. We started to really identify foreclosure early in 2000, end of 90s, early 2000s, and really positioned ourselves to intervene against foreclosure. And by 2005, we were really doing a lot of the foreclosure work. In 2008, we changed our name to Empowering and Strengthening Ohio's People. We opened 10 offices across the state. We were working in all 88 counties. And since 2005, we've helped more than 40,000 homeowners prevent foreclosure. But then in 2012, we started to look at our numbers, and we noticed that more than 40% of our clients in Cuyahoga County were 55 and older. So at a time when people should be nearing paying off their homes, they were losing their homes to foreclosure. So we started to say, you know, what can we do to help our older adults age in place with more financial security? So in 2013, we were funded to assess the issues impacting the quality of life for our senior population. So we held some listening tables, we researched our own databases, we looked at the US Census, we looked at other data from universities, the Center for Community Solutions, and then by 2014, we were actually ready to launch the Senior Financial Empowerment Initiative. And since 2014, we've actually been able to assist more than 10,000 older adults. So we can go to the next slide. So what does ESOP look like today? So we did only foreclosure prevention work until 2014. So today, if you look at our housing counseling, we do homebuyer education, pre-purchase, post-purchase, foreclosure prevention, property tax counseling. And then in our financial counseling division, we do financial counseling and coaching, financial education workshops. We have a match savings program. We're an Ohio Benefit Bank site. We do free tax preparation, and then we have our Senior Financial Empowerment Initiative. So on the next slide, we'll look at what that looks like in a list. And I say that because we're going to then look at what we really look at it. So we do our financial education workshops, the coaching and counseling, match savings, foreclosure prevention, property tax counseling. We have a senior property tax loan program. We do the benefits assessments, again, through the Ohio Benefit Bank site. We do vision screening, the free tax preparation, and we're getting ready to launch a new loan program for senior accessibility and small modification and home loans. So if you look at the very next screen, this is really how we see our program. A fully integrated program where you can come in at any point and get services. And they're really linked like that. It looks kind of crazy, and that really is how we see it. It's kind of crazy. But if you look at the financial workshops in the middle, we have that position that way for a reason. It is really the hub of our services. It's kind of the way that we do most of our outreach. So we actually do around 300 to 350 workshops a year, touching about 35 to 4,000 seniors a year. So that's the way that we're reaching most of our older adults. And so that's how we're getting them to come into most of those other services. That's really our outreach piece. That's how we're identifying a lot of times if someone needs foreclosure prevention counseling, or if they need that property tax counseling, or if they may not know we do that free tax preparation. So if you go to the next screen, I'll kind of go through and just explain what each one of those circles are. So our financial workshops, when we first got started, we had this great idea. We were going to go out and we were going to do one workshop. We were going to do how to avoid and recognize elder financial exploitation. And we were going to do the Money Smart for Older Adults curriculum that was created by the CFPB and the FDIC. And we still use that curriculum, but what we found was one touch was not enough. Just going out and doing that one workshop was really not enough to build trust in the community, was not enough to give the older adults the education they were looking for. They loved the workshops. They wanted us to come back. They wanted more. So we turned that one workshop into a series of 6 workshops. And we added on, we started with that one workshop. So we still do that Money Smart for Older Adults, how to recognize and avoid elder financial exploitation. We worked with legal aid and added on for Module 2, where we do a little bit of understanding the documents. We're not giving legal advice, but really understanding the documents used for financial planning. We bring this back to financial capabilities work. It all comes back to everything we do out there comes back to financial capabilities work. When we talk about this Module 2, it's really still about the budget, because what's the best thing to give to a power of attorney would be, the budget. That's the roadmap to give that power of attorney. And, what other documents, financial documents, do you need for any of those financial planning tools is, the budget. So we still bring everything, like I said, back to financial planning. And then when we finish up modules 1 and 2, when we go into modules 3, 4, and 5, we use AARP's Finances 50 Plus curriculum. And we talk about module 3 is goal setting, network, and developing a spending plan, developing a budget. And then if you'll go to the next slide,
Can I just quickly ask Sonia? I'm sorry.
Sure.
Someone just asked what your staff capacity is for the workshops.
We have 5 coaches that do our workshops, and that's out of 2 offices.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. So we have, then module 4 is credit and debt. Module 5 is building, savings, and understanding financial products. Sometimes on module 5, if we have bank partners, this is when we ask them to come in and talk about financial products. So when we get our bank sponsorships, this is the one where we'll oftentimes ask them to come in. Module 6, we just modified a little bit. We actually just got some funding from CareSource and partnered with them and asked them to come in and kind of help with a Medicare 101 piece. We were getting a lot of questions on Medicare and Medicaid that we couldn't answer. Although we help a little bit with Medicare, they were asking questions that we weren't quite ready to answer. And so they gave us some funding and we said, well, okay, it looks like you're the one that gets to come in and answer the questions. So they come in and answer some questions. There's an action plan in the back of that Finances 50 Plus book. So if they've done the action plan in modules 3, 4, and 5, we can kind of go through that with them in module 6. And really what we're trying to do is tie all this together, answer their questions, and give them a reason of why we want them to connect with us on one-on-one counseling or coaching. And so that's really what module 6 is about. This is when we would do those Ohio Benefit Bank quick checks that we can do on site, our vision screenings, which we'll talk about, and then hopefully we're scheduling some one-on-one appointments. So we can go on to the next screen. So financial counseling and coaching, probably most of you on this call probably do all of this. For us, we differentiate whether or not someone is in a crisis, whether they'll go in the coaching mode or the counseling mode. And quite often for us, an older adult will come to us in the counseling mode where they come to us in a crisis and they really need that counselor to direct them, to help figure out what the root cause is, get them past that initial crisis, and it could be a foreclosure issue, it could be a property tax issue, whatever that initial crisis is. Maybe we get them through that hurdle, and then they want to continue with us, and they go into the coaching model. Older adults, they work better in the coaching model. They have a lot of life experience. They prefer to be handled in that coaching model. So if at all possible, we try to get them as quickly as possible into the coaching model. But if they're in a crisis, oftentimes we have to start them in that counseling model. But we do offer both, and all of our coaches / counselors are trained to do either or. So we can go on to the next one. So our match savings accounts, we are really excited about our match savings accounts. We did our pilot last tax season, so we've done a full year of our match savings. So they are not an IDA. Roz was very against us doing an IDA, too much governing against the IDAs, and when we were working with this particular population, an IDA had to be used for education, small business, what's the other one? Education, small business, or buying a home. Those three things, most of the older adult population don't want to do those three things. So that's really not what we wanted to do with this match savings. So U.S. Bank actually helped us launch the first pilot, and we were able to create an emergency savings and or retirement savings, however they wanted to title it for that particular client. We paired it that first year with our VITA program. So if someone came in to get their taxes filed, then they could sign up to do the match savings. So what they had to do is they had to engage for 1 year. We've changed it now to 6. They had to come to 6 coaching sessions, and they have to make 10 deposits. We will match 1-to-1 up to $500 after that year. And in a few slides, we'll show you what the outcomes were for that first cohort. We are on our second cohort for our second year, and it is going very, very well. And when you go to the next slide, we have 3 match savings programs total for 3 different programs. So we have our LEAP program, which is our Learn and Earn Account program, which is sponsored by U.S. Bank and is tied to our VITA, which is our free tax program. And then we have our Key Team program, which is paired with our Towards Employment, which is a that one is not necessarily seniors. That one is actually for people who are re-entering the workforce. But that is a program that's sponsored by KeyBank and Towards Employment, so that is for that one. And then Metro Health and Fifth Third is the third one, and that is Metro Match. And we are getting ready to launch a 4th one called LEAP Plus that is also sponsored by U.S. Bank, that will be for only people who are 55 and older and will be paired up with our workshops. So if you go on to the next one, I'm pretty sure this is going to be the outcomes. And I'm sorry that it's small, but it's truly was straight from our outcome page. So our very first year, we had 23 people enrolled, 19 graduated. And if you look, the average savings per client was $900. The average total at the end was $904.08. So they almost all did the total 500 and got the 500 match. But what was really cool was they also reduced their debt by almost $1,500 and increased their credit scores by 20. Now, I don't know what your average client income is, but the average client income for this particular group of people was right around $14,000, which is actually a little higher than our average income for clients. So these numbers were pretty great. This total cohort saved $17,177. So we were really, really excited about this first year. They all did tremendous. Like I said, we out of 23, 19 graduated. If any of you have done IDAs, you know the struggle. It's hard to get that many people to pull through. So we were very pleased with the outcomes. We can go on to the next screen. So we still continue to do foreclosure counseling. I'm sure everyone on this call does foreclosure counseling, so I'm not going to talk too much about that. ESOP, I think, was the #1 agency here in the state. We helped more homeowners than anyone else, helping over 40,000 in all 88 counties here in Ohio. And I'm going to go ahead and skip on to the next screen. The Senior Property Tax Loan Program. So we started the Senior Property Tax Loan Program 3 years ago when we were invited to the Clinton Global Initiative. At that time, we were really having a crisis here in Cuyahoga County. They were selling our property tax loans to a third party. There was over 70,000 seniors at risk for foreclosure due to their property taxes. We were having a real struggle getting any repayment plans. We had this third party issue going on, and it was just really, really a bad situation. So we were able to leverage being able to go to the Clinton Global Initiative. Roz raised $200,000 from a local savings and loan to back the loans. We partnered then with the CFDI, who services the loans. We underwrite the loans, and yes, they are a 10% interest rate, but we do not have any collateral on these loans. So they're pretty much a credit card, if you think about it. We are not going to foreclose on someone. We're kind of in the foreclosure prevention business. So they're pretty much a credit card loan. These are people who would not get a loan anywhere else. We do not base their loans on credit, but we do base the loan on their ability to repay. So we do look at their budget and make sure that we're putting them in a good situation and not making a bad situation worse. We do mandate financial coaching for them for a year. The loans can range from $500 to $6,500. The clients must be 55 and older, and for right now must be in Cuyahoga County. The great news is we did 19 of these loans in the first year and really raised a lot of awareness in Cuyahoga County over what was happening. And if you'll go to the next slide, what ended up happening is Cuyahoga County, the treasurer, they ended up realizing how big the problem was, and they now have included property tax counseling as part of their foreclosure counseling. They have stopped selling these loans, stopped selling the property taxes to third parties for anyone that's under the homestead exemption program. So now they're no longer doing that. They're creating 0% interest affordable repayment plans for the older adults, and they're actually paying for property tax counseling under our foreclosure contract. So what has happened is we're now no longer giving out any of those loans, which is a great thing because now people are getting 0% interest payment plans that they can afford, and we then were able to take the money and try to create, which we're getting ready to launch, that other loan for what else is needed is for rehab, for modifications, and the small dollar loan program for older adults. We were able to take what was the money that was needed for something else. So we're excited about that, excited that at first we weren't excited that we were stopped giving loans, but when we've seen that it was for a good reason, they're getting 0% interest, the repayment plans are working. We're getting a good number of people to get those payment plans that they were not getting before. It's made a huge difference. So we're real excited about that. You can go to the next screen. So Ohio Benefit Bank. So through Ohio Benefit Bank, we can help clients right from our office apply for federal, state, and local benefits. I don't know if a lot of other states have this. If you don't have it at your state, you can go through the National Council on Aging, NCOA site, and apply for benefits through the federal site. But for Ohio, it is a huge deal. People do not want to apply for their SNAP benefits because it's a lot of paperwork. The office's lines are long. Some people just can't get there. So we actually became certified to do that right from our office, and it's been a great help. You can go on to the next slide. So this one's kind of a strange one when you know what we do, and it's kind of hard to get Roz to agree to it at first, but we became certified adult vision screeners about a year and a half ago, and the reason was we found that a couple different things. A lot of our older adults, when you're trying to help them figure out their budget, when you're trying to help them learn how not to be a victim of financial abuse, when you're trying to teach them to read their credit report, you can't teach them to do any of those things very well if they can't see. And if you're trying to loosen up money in their budget, if someone receives Medicare, if they have Medicare for insurance, but they don't have the supplement for vision, they can get a vision exam, but their coverage does not pay for glasses. And so we found that out, and we found that if we became vision screeners through Prevent Blindness Ohio, we could give out vouchers to our clients who met that criteria to be able to receive glasses for free. And so we became vision screeners. It's also a great outreach program. It also gets us into a lot of wellness fairs where we may not have been before to do outreach. So we can go and set up vision screening and reach more people and let them know what we do to be able to promote our other services. So it's actually been a wonderful tool for us. We're actually very excited about it. We've helped a lot of people get glasses, and they send us pictures with them with their glasses on. So you can go to the next screen. So free income tax preparation. We are a year-round free tax site. We found that, especially with older adults, if you're a free tax site and you're only open for a few months of the year, what happens when you get that notice in the middle of the year when there's no sites open? So we're only one of 2 sites in the county that's open, but we do stay open all year to help with those letters that come in. We try to make sure that we're capitalizing on those teachable moments. And that's why we opened that match savings program and really wanted to link it to our tax season and when they're getting that refund. And we really use it as a way to link to wraparound services, and that's kind of the key word, especially anyone that's doing the income tax services, the wraparound services. How do you link it to get people to wrap around into other services? And we're still trying to do some advocacy work for extending the earned income tax credit for seniors that are still working beyond 65. If you don't know this, once you turn 65, if you do not have a minor child in your home, you do not qualify for earned income tax credit. So up until that age, you can get the earned income tax credit. But once you're 65, if you do not have a minor child, you no longer get it. You can get it at 64 without a minor child, but 65, you have to have a minor child. So that's very unfair. We need more advocacy work around that. You can go on to the next one. So if you can just see the growth a little bit over the last 3 years of our Senior Financial Empowerment Initiative. When we first launched in 2014, we only did 35 workshops. 2015, we did 132. 2016, we did 289. And halfway through the year, we were already at 169 workshops. And we're on track to hit almost 350 this year. We had 535 in those workshops, and we think we're going to see 4,000 this year. And we're not going to go through all those numbers because we're already past time, but that just kind of gives you a sense of how quickly we have trended this program, and the numbers have just gone up very quickly. You can go on to the next slide. So just some quick numbers. Again, our average client income is just over $11,000. So for a client to decrease debt, $2,396, and increase savings, $240. This is not our match savings. This is our counseling and coaching clients. Those are pretty good numbers. Decrease in monthly expenses, $175. Increase in credit score, 26 points. We ask our clients, all of our older adults, to track not just their spending, but track what they watch on TV. We find that many of our older adults particularly have more channels that they flip through than what they actually watch. And so we'll get on the phone and negotiate with their cable companies, and that's where you'll see a lot of that decrease in monthly expenses is cable bills. You can go ahead to the next screen. Is cable bills, because we negotiate to get those cable bills. We're not going to talk too much about these because I really don't want to keep people too long. These are just a couple of our outcomes, people who have had great success. Betty's had our senior property tax loan. She's done our coaching. She's been part of my budget coach. She's done our match savings, our LEAP program, had her income taxes prepared with us, and she's just had great outcomes. You can go on to the next one, which is another success story. This one, I'm going to stop on his just for a minute. He saved the most money in our match savings program. He saved over $1,700. When he came to us, his biggest problem was he was giving money to his grandchildren, and we had to really help him identify his relationship with his money, his relationship with his children, and work through some of those issues. He paid down almost $3,000 in debt, paid his car off, and he was actually able to retire. And we've stayed in contact with him, and he's doing great. Go on, and we are almost done, I promise. I'm going to get you out of here. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Sonia. Are there
You're
any
welcome.
burning questions here?
Yeah, but maybe just one that, well, maybe a couple, and I apologize, we won't get to all of them. I think you talked a bit about some of where the funding for particular programs comes from, but the person said they thought you had said that the program was self-sufficient. If you could just elaborate a little bit more on the funding.
So we get a lot of funding from foundations. We get funding from financial institutions, and that is really the majority of the funding. We get a very small percentage of funding from collaborating and having some government funding, but the majority of our funding is foundation and financial institutions.
You had a United Way grant, right? Is that still
Yes.
in effect?
Yes.
So that was substantial. That was $100,000 or something, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, those kind of direct social service are maybe a little bit different than the foundation world pieces.
Right.
That's part of the angle you used in the seniors.
Yes, and so in some of our counties, so not here in Cuyahoga County, but some of our counties, there's senior levy money, and so we get some senior levy money that you can apply for. So it's different in the senior world because there's a few different things you can go after. We're getting ready right now to apply for Western Reserve Area Agency on Aging, which is older adult, money from the Older Adult American Act.
Great, thank you. And then just one other question. Someone asked if there have been any issues with respect to getting seniors, physically out of their houses and into your workshops or counseling sessions. Is that an issue? And if so, how have you kind of dealt with that?
So with the workshops, we have learned you go where seniors are. You don't try to get them to come to you. So we typically will go to senior centers, apartment buildings, churches, anywhere where they're already congregating. We don't ask them to come to us. And then as far as the one-on-one, we will go to their home. So if it is someone who's homebound and they need us to come to them, we have no problem going to them. But if it's someone who has come to a workshop, usually they can get to us. So, and we are on the bus line and all of that good stuff. So typically, like I said, we're going to where they are, and then they can typically get to us. But we do have those few referrals that we end up having to go to their home.
Great, excellent, Sonia. And I just love the kind of the cross networking you do with your various programs that have multiple impacts on, especially on the senior population, and this idea of the eyeglasses, which gets you into the wellness fairs, which allows you to have access to a much different population. Clarify here in the Delaware Valley area has done a lot of work with healthcare programs because people with health problems often have credit problems as well. And that sort of back and forth, but getting to a new population is really terrific. So great work.
Thank
you so much.
That's the new link, the health wealth connection. You can't really look at someone's overall well-being without looking at their financial well-being. Anyone that has financial issues, it affects their health. And so there's going to be funding, I think, down that route. Anyone that's doing anything in the financial realm should be looking and partnering with in the health realm.
And so many folks asked if we could circulate your presentation. Would that be okay?
Sure.
All
yes.
right. Thanks. Great. Well, thank you so much. We're going to close out here. So quick plug to join NHRC. Our membership applications on our website, upper right-hand corner. We have had a good year in terms of new groups joining and certainly groups renewing. But if you haven't joined yet, we could really use your support. With that, we're going to close out and talk to you again in 2 weeks. But thanks, everybody. This was a fascinating call. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.